many have a family tree? How many have, are working on a family tree? 2 or 3? Oh, we've got several then. You know way more than I do. My name is Ron Freeze. My grandfather, George Freeze, and grandmother Mary migrated to the United States in 1912 with 5 children. George came in May, arrived in Philadelphia, and Mary and 5 children came in September to have Halifax, Nova Scotia. They settled in the Seaboing area, working sugar beets, like so many did. They were working sugar beets. On my mother's side, my grandfather, George Rexus, migrated in October of 1911, landing in Philadelphia, and my grandmother, Mary, and 4 children came in June of 1912. They landed in Baltimore, and they both came on a ship called the Chemnitz. They also settled in the Seaboing area and worked sugar beets. I think my grandfather Freeze worked in the stone quarry up in the Seaboing area before the sugar beets. But that's what they ended up doing. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about genealogy and then I'll talk about the research that I've done on the Freeze family. As you all know, genealogy is generation knowledge, also known as family history. It is the study of the families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogy uses oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family. The results are often displayed in charts and written in narratives. The purpose of family history and the origins tend to be shaped by several motivations, including the desire to carve out a place for one's family in the larger historical picture, and a sense of responsibility to preserve the past for future generations. I wonder about the future generations because I don't see where the future generations have the interest that we do. And you know, this came to us later on, I think, but I don't see that the future generations having the interest. You need, as you know, so many of you have a family tree or working on a family tree. You need a lot of motivation to study your family history. It takes a lot of time. I started my research after talking to a 92-year-old friend of mine in our park in Florida, and his name was Joe, and he had been researching his family for a number of years and had also gone back several generations. He lived in the Pittsburgh area, and he helped a lot of people through the years to get started on researching their families also. He asked me about my family, and he was not German, but he asked me about my family, and I told him what I knew at the time. And that was about 6 years ago, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. We started going to the genealogy club meetings in the park. They had a genealogy group in the park. So we started to go to those meetings. And I guess the first thing that I learned is to be organized and stay organized. And all of you that are working on family trees and getting information, you know how important that is. It allows you to find needed information quickly, help you to stay on track with consistent record keeping. You avoid duplication of effort, keep a log on what you are doing at any given time, and it helps you to avoid a lot of clutter. I know I have a bit of clutter, but I have a bit of information that's all in one spot, and I know where to get it. And I say, number 2, it takes a lot of time. And as you know, if you are not willing to put that time in or be able to take the time to do that, the research, and to create a family tree, Um, it's time consuming. I think once you get started, it's addicting because you just want to keep getting more information. And that's kind of where it is. It's addicting. I started out, Joe had told me, he says, well, you have to have some kind of a program to figure out how you're going to keep all this information and record all this information. So I started out by finding a computer program, and I used Family Tree Builder by MyHeritage. And that has worked quite well for me. And when I got started, I actually printed out, or not printed out the manual, but I looked at the manual. The manual is, I don't know how many pages, 700 pages or something. I looked at the manual and got information as to the things that I should look for each individual, like complete name and date of birth and date of baptism, date of confirmation and where, date of marriage, place of marriage, and other facts like that. And I try to get that information for each person that I have tried to build a family tree for. And what I did is I created a sheet, and I will show you a copy of it. I just created a sheet with all of that information on, and I started with mine, filled it out, and then I went to my wife Donna and filled hers out. And then I gave a sheet to my siblings and then also my cousins. And I asked them to fill out their sheets. So that's what they did. And I then indexed all that information into my family tree, and I started building the tree as we kept going. After I got our siblings and the information from my kids and grandkids, then I started getting information from my cousins, and they would give me their kids and their grandkids. And one of the things that you probably have run across also is there are some people that are not willing to do it. You know, so basically you have a spot in your tree that's not filled. I have a couple of cousins that have done that, but that's their prerogative, I guess. I guess the more information that you put in a person's record, the more information that you'll be able to print out and show in your reports. With that computer program, I certainly would have been overwhelmed with all of the information as it was coming in, and you probably have experienced that. One thing that then happened to me is I looked in the clues book and tried to track the Freese side of the family. And I found a cousin, was a sixth cousin. She lived in the state of Washington, and she had done research on the family, the Freese family, since she was in her teens, and she was in her 50s when I talked to her about probably 5 years ago now. She was in her 50s, so she had been researching that for a long time. She told me about this family chart that she had, and she said, I'll send you one. So she did. I think I sent her $20 just to handle the mailing. But basically, this is the chart, and it goes back to 9 generations back. And it goes back to this grandfather here was born in 1711 in Germany. And then it branches out all of his descendants and then their descendants. And this grandfather right here is the grandfather that I knew, was born in 1874. And he is right here in this chart. The chart only goes to that grandfather, so it's about 2 generations back. That's as far as that chart goes. These are the descendants that were born in Prussia. So she had sent me this, and you can imagine there are birth dates on there and names, dates of death. So I then started to index all of that information into my computer program. So my family tree was starting to build. And then she also created a website. And her name is Lopella, and she is, she's my 6th cousin. So I think her great-great-grandmother was married to a singer or, whatever, but that's where it broke away from the Frieses. Anyway, on this website that she created, she has, and I'll show it to you here, she has all of those generations right up to date, as current as she is right now. Now, from what I had in my family history, I sent to her, and she entered it on her website. So it'd be interesting just for you to take a look at the kind of information that she has in there. So as you can see, you can spend a lot of time on it, and you can get a lot of information. And there are, as you know, a lot of websites, and we talked about this a bit before, there are a lot of websites available to get various information, and that's basically what I have used in my search. Right now, I've got 4,100 people in my family tree. Now, those are not all Frieses or Rexes. I have the brother-in-law's family, and probably have gone back a ways on that, and I have done those kinds of things. So I have a lot of that kind of information also in there. Don and I were visiting our recreation hall down in Florida. It was like 2 years ago, and we went up there one afternoon to listen to the music, and it just happened that the last song that they played was Saginaw, Michigan. And they did that quite a bit over there. But so anyway, I went up to one of the fellows in the band, was a friend, and I went up there and I said, Ernie, I says, I'm probably the only one here from Saginaw, Michigan. And he was talking to another fellow, and the other fellow said, what high school did you graduate from? And I said, Arthur Hill, 1961. He says, come on over here to my table. I want to introduce you to somebody. And he says, this is my wife, Judy. So I talked to Judy and found out she graduated in 61 also. What a coincidence, There was 745 in my graduating class. So obviously, you knew a small handful. We talked about different people in the school. and that we hung around with when we were in high school. And finally I asked her, I said, well, what was your maiden name? Because I didn't, and she said, Rexus. I said, you're my cousin. We've both been in the park for about 10 years and never ran across each other before. I knew of her husband. He played ball, and we watched the softball games, so I kind of knew of him, but I had never met Judy. And, you can go a lot of different places, a long ways away, and you'll always find a cousin, maybe. But anyway, her grandfather and my grandfather, Rexus, were brothers. And her father, his name was Fred, and he was in real estate. I think he was in real estate in the 50s and 60s in Saginaw. And he would have been first cousins to my mother. I'm going to show you some of the information. That's the chart from Dr. Preeve from Russia. And I'll just pass this out. First one, this is that website, Locella.net. This is the sixth cousin, and you can just see the detail that she has put into all of this information that she has entered in. The next exhibit is, this is the descendants of the grandpa, which was 9 generations back, I guess. Johann Martin Fried, and he was born in 1711. And in my tree, I have 126 pages worth of descendants from that grandfather. This is about the first 10 pages of that list.
Born in Russia?
This is up to date. These are our descendants, which would include my grandchildren in this whole list. The next one I have here is, this is the last 10 pages of that 126-page list. It shows you kind of the notes that I have out in the website. I have, say, obituaries and that sort of thing, and it prints all of that out on these reports. So this is kind of the last 10 pages.
Ron, do you remember the village they came from?
Huh?
The village, a colony in Russia.
My grandfather, George, 1874, they were from Stahl, Van College. But I think each of my 4 uncles were born in a different town. Now what happened is my grandfather worked on the railroad there, and my father was born farthest to the east on the railroad, and then the others were in spots coming back toward the Volga River area. So that's kind of how it progressed. This one is just a sheet of the ancestors of my grandpa, George, and that's only 5 pages. So This is the family sheet that I had made out. So I'll show you that. You'll have an idea of the information that I've started to start developing my family tree. Back in the day, in the 20s, I think it was 1924, many of the Germans from Russia lived in the Main Street, Elm Street area.
Pickle factory, by the pickle factory.
In that area, many of the Germans from Russia lived in there. Well, and I think it was 1924, Jake, you may correct me on that, but they built a church on the corner there of Main and Elm. There's an interior of that church. I was confirmed there in, I think, 56, and there's my confirmation picture. It seemed like there was always 30 people in those confirmation classes back at that time. I mean, there was just a lot of kids. And there's Jake's dad, Pastor Acorn.
Which church?
Emmanuel, that was Emmanuel Lutheran Church, Main and Elm.
That's where I play the organ at.
Huh?
I play the organ there.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
was Main and Elm? Main and Elm, this church?
Main and Elm, yeah.
Was that not Cincinnati?
No, it was in Canada. They had that big fight.
I know it, I remember that, yeah.
Here is a map of Russia.
Like every church,
And
it was church.
this is Volga River area over here. This is where my father was born, right here, and I can't even pronounce the name of the town, starts with an I.
Second generation.
Huh?
But
This is where it is, so.
That would be on the east side of the river.
On the east, well, he was way into Siberia.
Oh, my God.
That's where he was, and this is Volga River area.
Didn't they used to say there was a high bank? In the low, anybody ever heard that story? High bank and the lower bank along the Volga?
Yeah.
There were over 3,000 villages, German villages at one time.
This is a map of the German villages. And I know Damon has visited Stahl. He went over there a number of years ago because I think that's where his mother is from. This is a little map of Stahl. Back 1910, just happens to be a lot of Frieses that live there.
Is that a colony?
That's
Stahl?
Stahl's one of the colonies, yeah.
So how do you get a list of the names for that colony? How do you get a list that, you know? identifies?
Of the names that are in that colony,
Mhm.
I got this from an uncle, this map. He had done research on the family tree.
Oh, so he made.
Yeah, so he had gotten that information, yeah.
My brother traveled back there because he worked for United Airlines. So he and my son went to the library in Ann Arbor and put the map from back then on top of the map from nowadays or something like that, so that they could reconnoiter where the villages were now, because they're all renamed.
Yeah, and now different now.
So they could do that. You can do that now.
Okay.
I've printed out
Right
these
here.
ancestor
Show.
and descendant charts for my siblings and also my cousins on both sides of the family. And they were interested in all the information that I have gathered, but none of them really seem to be interested enough to start working on a family tree. I think there are a couple on the Rex's side of the family, but not on the Cree side of the family. And one of the things, I guess, that I do not know is I will get this information to when the time comes. Because I don't know of any in my family that's interested in it, so it may just die. Any questions of me?
What is this other
But see,
name?
this one got confused.
I got my last name in here, the one I've been trying to find, like, spell
That's a layout of stall.
it.
That's, I think it's on the sheet there, STAHL.
Oh, it's S-T-A-H-L. But this is the first one?
Well, no.
That's one of those colonies along the Volga River.
But somebody made it.
And there's two stalls, there's two different
Wrote
colonies.
it like that, you know.
One is
your-
stall on Pollock,
your-
and the other one, I can't remember what the
And
name
then we filmed.
One of them is called Stahl Carmen River. Carmen River.
Yeah, here's some.
But does that
There
mean
are
your
two
family?
stalls.
Yeah.
Yes, there are two.
Yeah,
Your family lives, I mean, this is, because that's what I see, Reach name, that's my last, well, I'm trying to establish, am I related to these people that went from Germany to Russia, and to the States? I was trying to make a connection.
how far have you gotten back?
Oh, wait a minute. I've got, information from a cousin,
But it's not
1983, Andreas Reach, and of course the name keeps changing spellings. But I mean, it goes to 1700s, 1744, back in Philadelphia. But I started going into the society here, their website, and that's when I started finding
Went to St. Church.
what was in one of their pages, that Videk, that pronounced Videk, that village, Videk.
Yes, BEID.
There's 4 villages with reach names in there.
Yeah.
And I've seen some connections between the ship, you know, you go into the websites for ships, passenger ships, and you start making connections with names, and you start seeing the same names that pop up. And so I'm just curious, we got Johann.
I just some of them are the same, see?
No, they're all different.
Well, there's two of those.
When the Bolsheviks took over and slaughtered so many, the way my grandmother said, that there were some that were shipped in cattle cars to, Siberia. So, is it reasonable to assume that we have some relatives, Czech relatives that live up there now? Could that be proved with DNA?
The answer to that's probably yes, right, Jim?
Probably.
Yeah,
They're still.
yeah.
We might.
They just showed me that map.
Now they're out on
And all that, stall, and it laid out like a little
there.
city.
And then.
Did they actually lay out,
My mother-in-law.
their houses where they had like a little city on according to that map?
Yeah,
They did.
yeah. That's a layout of each of the lots in that little town.
Maybe I can clarify something here. The German Russians who went either up the pun intended, up the river, up the Volga, or from Odessa, that way. And there were, of course, a lot of towns there, and things were pretty okay. Then in 1917, the Russian Revolution came along, the communists took over, and then when Stalin got in control after Lenin died in the late 20s and into the 30s. He instituted what was called the 5-year plans to industrialize Russia. This communist government seized a lot of land from what they call, quote unquote, the kulaks, the landowners, and a lot of these were German Russians. They were deported, sent to Siberia, worked in the labor camps. Well, you can imagine it was no, it was no tourist camp, if you will, and it was rough. A lot of them died, disease, the whole package. The war came along, and more Germans from Russia were uprooted and pushed forward. A lot of the villages were destroyed. A lot of the German Russians fought in the German army against the Russians. And then fast forward ahead another 50 years to the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s and the reunification of Germany in the 90s. A lot of these Germans who were in Russia, decided, it's time to go back home to the fatherland. And that's where they are today. A lot of them have, quite a number have gone, their descendants now have gone back to the fatherland, have gone back to Germany from Russia.
You mean there were still Germans in Russia all this time? I thought they had been shipped to
Well,
Siberia.
they were shipped, a lot of them were shipped away, Siberia. They were around, hung on, and then after the war, and then after the collapse of the Soviet Union, in the early 90s, then a lot of them decided, hey, we'll go back to Germany. The descendants did, of course. Especially after the reunification of Germany.
And then a lot of them just became Russian.
Yeah, a lot of them
The one
did.
fellow we had, he was the manager of Frankenville, or the man, what was his name? He was here one time.
Elmer Simon?
Yeah, he was telling about that one of their relations, they had so many kids, they came over and left one. So when they went back and checked it, she was just a Russian.
Yeah.
She was just a Russian. Now, my mother said that they had these little villages, and then they all lived in the village, but then they walked out to the farm.
That was the,
Now, on my granddad's, I looked at some of the stuff they had here, I don't mind that. It's called Uberdorf. He was supposed to be from Uberdorf, and that was near Serrata. And you got a thing here,
You
it's
didn't-
got all
you
those.
didn't- you didn't find
I
that
couldn't
out?
find that in there.
No. I thought I seen that.
Uberdorf in there. I don't know.
I thought I seen it in there. I'll take a look. Has any of you used Clues book? Mary, you have? This is a publication from the American Historical Society, Germans from Russia. They send us this publication. And I have I think there is a updated, maybe once or twice more edition of this. But if you're looking for a certain surname,
And I have a folder here that.
you can look in here, find that surname, and there are people to contact with their addresses and email addresses and telephone numbers. And that's how I ended up getting this information, because I contacted that sixth cousin, as I had indicated, and that's what I used to find it.
That's what I see out here from what I printed, the American Historical Society of Germans from Russia, that I found in the library. I've gone through every single menu on the internet on this, and I've made copies of maps, and I'm finding 4, like you've had on your map, Vidak,
You still do get those?
the village.
I stopped.
And I don't know how to pronounce it, Kukas or Kukas?
Yeah. Kukas. Kukas, I think.
What's the other one?
Did you see that on the map?
Cutter,
Yep.
Kukas, and Norca. I found just what you had, like, a map. I was like so ecstatic that day when I saw Reese Schneider in a little, box. I said, okay, I don't know how they're related. That's what I don't understand is, I thought it was German, but I don't understand these people who went from Germany to Russia. Are they still considered Germans?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Well, I needed that answer. Because I was starting to think, oh, I don't want to be related to two.
So what I hear you saying, what I had always heard, was that when the Bolsheviks took over, that they slaughtered all the German people in these German villages, or shipped the healthy ones off to Siberia. You're telling me that there were still some Germans left in Russia. What did they do then?
Jake's got a first cousin that came out of Germany in the 90s. Came out of Russia.
All in Russia?
Well, like I say, that fellow was saying that they left a child over there, just a small town. And when they went back to find the child, she was just a Russian.
Right,
She
so
couldn't
there must have been some Germans left there in Russia. The Bolsheviks must have left some in Russia. They didn't ship them all.
Oh, yeah,
Just
no.
information, I just didn't know if I was German.
You're a trap. When our folks got out, it was just the right time to get out.
Right,
Because after that, they didn't get out.
right. Yeah, they were all slaughtered. My grandmother's and grandfather's family were all slaughtered. Or shipped to Siberia, that's the way it was told to us.
I'm curious, I really appreciate seeing hard copies, which you circulated, but do you have it where you, on a disc? You've got this committed to, you know, I like to see something like this that I can paw around on, but I'm also very intrigued with how we can kind of get the whole picture.
Do you, you have not created a family tree, John?
Not complete yet.
On a computer?
Yeah,
You
I've
have?
got part of it, a little bit.
Do you use a program? Yes?
Yeah, Family Tree Maker, I think.
Okay, well, that's exactly the
I've gone
program.
through Reunion, I've tried several, and, you know, it's been a stop and go type of thing, but now they're giving you some pretty good direction on which ones you should go with, and I think what you've got is a good idea. But I was just curious, you've got so many pieces here. I remember when I was in Oklahoma 40 years ago, the neighbor next door had a pad, he had written everything down, which you had to do. It just amazed me that he had pages of handwritten stuff, just hundreds of pages. But he was very serious about it.
I have both my my grandmother's sister's family. They lived in Flint. Their name was Felker. One of the descendants, her name was, I can't remember her first name, Palmquist.
Margarita.
Huh?
Margarita Palmquist.
What was her first name?
Vicky.
Mickey, yeah. But anyway, I have a copy of their whole family history, and it's paper copy, that thick, and it's all typed with all the information in it. I mean, it's a lot of time spent, but she started way before computers. Yeah. But once you put it on your computer, then you can take that, you know, the other information is possible.
I wouldn't take it away because I have proof. You need, so it's on the computer, to me, you need to have proof. So on Ancestry.com, you get the census, you can print off all that proof to say this is where I got that information. And so that's why the books are that thick.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't
Can I have a note too about something that you said? I just want to,
Yeah.
in case you folks get up there. I have already been on that MyHeritage Family Tree Builder, renewed in December. I gotta find my note. I just had it. Oh, I paid, it's up to 200 names are free to My Heritage Family Tree Builder, where, like you said, you can enter everybody's names. There's a place in there you can click on notes, and anything, if you see an obit, and I'm a typing teacher, so I can just type it in. But you go, and what I've learned is I put the date first, that I'm entering it, because if I go back and I go, what date, you know, it really is helping me put today's date, and then I put the source from where I got it.
Right.
Whether it was an obit, Ancestry, Hoyt Library, whatever.
The
And, but,
family tree maker, that comes out on the bottom when you print it. Comes out the date that I did it.
I know, but I want it under the notes, like specific, when I put in that person's name and date, you know, whatever I wanna put. But I just paid $74.25, so I have the premium plan for 2,500 names. Now, I don't know, I'm probably gonna go higher than that, but I'm not there yet. They got a lot of things out there, but you can go up to 200 names for free. Then they have a premium plus, and I can't remember, it's like 100 and something, and it's unlimited. You can go, you know, the people at the company.
So does it line up like for a tree or?
Oh,
that
it's
you can-
wonderful. Yeah, and it'll
Yeah,
even
see,
tell you, like, if you
I guess
type in.
I like family tree maker, that's what I started, that's what I'm used to. It's
I know,
so
my
easy.
cousin does Roots
I-
Magic. I tried it, and I
yeah.
didn't like it. I
Yeah.
don't even like Ancestry.com, because it's too hard to, you know, it's not user-friendly.
Really, see, and I found that this one's the easiest for me, and I put pictures in it.
And findagrave.com is not always accurate either. I found an error not too long ago in something. You know,
Mhm.
when you go to, because people are human, they enter information, you know, and I found an error.
Yeah, but you're supposed to write
I
that
tried,
error,
but I
and,
didn't.
huh.
I just wanted to mention that.
Any other questions?
That's
Thank you.
what you've done.
Thanks, Ron, very informative.